More to come from the president today. But let's ask this question. Does his plan make sense economically? Who better to answer it than the man who served as chief economic advisor to Ronald Reagan? Martin Feldstein is the Baker Professor of Economics at Harvard and the former president of the National Bureau of Economic Research. Bloomberg Markets magazine just named Professor Feldstein one of the 50 most influential people in finance. It is indeed great to have him here today. Professor, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So let's try to answer the question. Does what the president has put on the table, we have some details thus far, make sense to you economically?
No, not really, and I doubt that it does to him or to his advisors.
Is that just to say it's all political?
At this point, it is an election statement. It's a way of trying to corner the Republicans to be the defenders of the rich. But even operationally, there's no way to have a plan that just raises the tax on people over $1 million and doesn't go down to people under $1 million. What happens?
Why do you say that operationally?
Okay, so you're making $900,000. Then you're exempt from the Buffett plan. If you made another $100,000, suddenly your tax would jump dramatically because you would have to go from paying 20% to 35%.
So it doesn't make sense without a graduated scale.
You'd have to have a graduated scale. So what does a graduated scale mean? It means eventually that if you're making $100,000, you're going to have to pay more taxes. Moreover, the Buffett plan, when he first talked about it, a 10% surcharge on incomes over $1 million, I did the arithmetic, worked out what it would do. It would take about 0.5% off of the annual deficit. The deficit is projected next year to be about 8%. So it makes a tiny dent, and that on the assumption that there's no response to it, that high-income individuals don't say, well, if you're going to double my tax rate, I'm going to find some different ways of getting my income.
You are, though, in favor, are you not, of closing loopholes? I mean, this is just a backdoor way, if you will, of closing loopholes.
No. This is an increase in marginal tax rates, and this is an increase in tax rates on capital gains, and I don't favor either of those.
Okay. I mean, I'm making the assumption that you've done more reading on this than me. I've done some. I was under the impression, though, that it was a minimum tax rate to eliminate the wealthiest Americans from taking advantage of the kinds of loopholes or deductions, if you will, that people like Warren Buffett enjoy. Why he's able to bring his effective tax rate down to 17% instead of paying something close to the marginal tax rate.
So what I have been in favor of is looking for everybody at some of these expenditure programs that are built into the tax code, something that the Simpson-Bowles group talked about, broadening the tax base, lowering tax rates. Real reform, in other words. Real reform rate. What the president is talking about primarily is increasing the tax on capital gains, raising the capital gains tax rate. And there's no way, as I said a minute ago, to do that just for millionaires and not for others. And what we learned before capital gains tax rates were reduced is the capital gains tax, unlike your income tax, is a kind of voluntary tax. You don't have to sell the stuff.
Right.
So you push the tax rate up from the current 15% to 35%, and people just sit on those gains.
Changes the incentive.
It changes the incentive to sell. It also changes the incentive to invest, to take risks. But once you've got a gain, you say, well, I'm just going to hold it.